Once you know who you are and what your plan is, you need to put together a business plan, put together something on paper that you can show to people that have money, that show them what you want to do, how you're going to do it, where you're going to do it, and then how much money it'll take, and then how they're going to get their money back. So there's a lot of different things that you need to consider. And the reason I say to put it on paper is not only so that you can show it to somebody, but because it's going to force you to think about it.
You are now listening to the Creative Juice podcast, brought to you by Entrepreneur.io.
What's up, Indies? Welcome back to the Creative Juice podcast. I'm your host, Jack McCarthy, and this is episode 261. I'm here with a very special guest today to talk about a topic that we don't really get to too much on the podcast, and honestly, I don't think we get enough of in today's music industry landscape. And so I'm very, very excited to welcome back to the podcast Wendy Day, who is here with us to talk about all things finance, artists, music industry, where things are going, where they've been. And I'm so excited to welcome her back. Wendy, welcome back to Creative Juice. Thanks for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me. I love you so much. I love doing this podcast. I love Indiepreneur. I think I'm your biggest fan.
Thank you so much. That's amazing. I was just so happy that you were willing to jump back on and talk about what we're going to get into today, because I think it's a really fun and interesting topic.
It's so important.
Yeah, it is really important, especially given, how indies keep grabbing up more market share of the industry.
And it's growing. It's not stopping.
Yeah, there's a lot for us to do.
Yes. And we always say, and you said this, before we started recording, we tell everybody, you don't need a label to do this. You can do this with your own money. And then we stop right there. We don't answer that question. Now what?
Right, exactly.
We all know it takes money.
Yeah, for sure. And you're like the number one person that came to my mind when I thought about who to talk to about this.
Oh my God, I love that. Thank you. What a huge compliment.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't think of a better person to talk to about it, and a more fun conversation.
Nobody does.
Yeah.
Well, I do. Nobody does. Nobody will tell you like what this costs, like in total.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody wants to talk about, how much you spend each month, but they don't tell you how long it's going to take or how much it's going to cost, because they're all trying to just get a check, and that's not how you run a business. You need a budget. You need to plan.
Yeah, exactly. It's so true. Well, for our listeners who may not have met you yet, and I'm going to make sure we link in the show notes to the episode that you were on with us before, where we were just talking about the industry at large a while back. Just give a little bit of background on you. Obviously, you have a huge history in the music business, and you've worked with hundreds of artists and from household names to artists who are just getting their footing now. Give our listeners a little bit of a rundown of who you are.
Absolutely. So my name is Wendy Day. I started a company in 1992. Most of you weren't born yet, called Rap Coalition. And Rap Coalition is the not-for-profit side of what I do. It helps artists that are stuck in bad deals with major labels or with management companies. We help renegotiate their deals or pull them out of deals. And then we do a lot of educational work to educate artists about what's fair and acceptable in the music industry. And all of our educational materials are free as of right now, which is great. And they've been free my whole career, 31 years. So my for-profit side of what I do is we help artists that have investors start their own independent record labels. We help them put out music into the marketplace, and we show them hands-on how to do it. And our goal is to build as many successful indie entrepreneurs as possible. Everybody that I've ever worked with, Jack, I started with them when nobody knew who they were. And I've worked with Cash Money, Master P, Twista, David Banner, Eminem, Trouble, Little Donald, The Girl Code, Fiend, C Murder, Young Buck. I'm drawing a blank.
So many amazing artists.
So many amazing artists. I'm so incredibly humbled and fortunate. La Russell, how could I leave out La Russell? He's killing it right now. But all of them have something in common, and that's when I met them, they were really just starting out. They were really new. And I started listening to hip hop in 1980, and I came to it because I love the music. I'm very passionate about hip hop. Prior to hip hop, I used to listen to rap, punk, ska, industrial music. So I've always been a fan of music, but I didn't start working in the music industry till 1992. And then I figured I would just do it till it wasn't fun anymore. And here I still am. So
It's still fun.
I know, right? Even though I'm old, I still love it. I'm still relevant and I'm still really good at it. And I'm very thankful. My secret is I surround myself by a lot of young people. Like everybody that works with me, they're 20, actually 19 to 35. So I surround myself with the market, the people that are who we're going after and targeting to sell music and merch to. That's who I'm surrounded by. So I have a really good understanding of the market, the marketplace, and how to do this, right?
Yeah, your team on the ground.
My team on the ground, right? And that's important. If we don't surround ourselves with young people, we can't stay current in the culture and what matters. And the culture and what matters is what drives the capital side, the financial side, the consumer side of the music industry.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point is like it's an ecosystem, right?
Yes.
And kind of like a flywheel, like what's happening in the culture is driving consumption, which is driving finance, which is driving artists and businesses.
Which is driving success.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
It is. And I've always loved, I'm a fan of the music, but I've always loved the business side. And I noticed really early on that a lot of artists aren't great at the business side. So I always knew that I wanted to be the left brain to their right brain. I always wanted to help bring business sense to people that were creative.
That's so amazing. Yeah. And obviously you have in so many ways.
And transparently and fairly. Proving that there's goodness in the music industry.
Yeah. And that's so important, like in an industry that isn't transparent.
Exactly. And it's not fair.
Yeah. Isn't any of those things trying to build ethical businesses and practices.
Yes. And showing people that you can win doing it right.
Yeah. It's so great. That's amazing background. I mean, obviously that's amazing background. Let's talk about capital and finance and artists and where this all comes into play because, before we started recording, we started to get ourselves excited and we were like, oh, we got to hit record right now.
Yeah, we started to go. It's like, why aren't we recording this?
Yeah, we were so pumped up because right now, indie music market share is growing more and more in 2023. Every year it's just growing.
And it's going to keep growing.
Yeah, and it's an amazing thing. And it's something that we've talked about on the podcast before. You've mentioned it on the show. But I think it's often glazed over when really trying to go in depth. Everyone says like an artist can seek out, financiers or investors on their own and they don't need a label, but no one really talks about how. And you've been helping artists do this, your whole career. So I wanted to just touch on really in this episode, just dive into that together. And I'd love to just pick your brain as someone who, has so much experience and expertise and stories to share, I'm sure, about this topic. But I'd love to just hear your thoughts on the state of things right now. We just did a video about this that Circa put out on our YouTube channel, kind of talking about record labels basically being
such an amazing video.
Oh, I'm glad you liked it.
I loved it. Like, I love him so much anyway. What brought me to you years ago was I heard him speak in an interview and I fell in love instantly. And he was doing an interview with a friend of mine. I called my friend and I said, I need his phone number. And he's like, I don't know that I'm comfortable. I said, yes, you are. Give it to me. I have to talk to him because it's so rare that I meet somebody who thinks the way I think. And I'm like, I have to know who he is.
Cirque's going to be blushing when he listens to this episode.
I had a conversation with him. I got his phone number and I had a conversation with him. And I'm just so in awe and so enamored of his brain. It's just unbelievable. So he put out this video yesterday, or I saw it yesterday, talking about capital in the music industry. And I am not anti-major label by any means. I think that the majors have a place, they have a lane. They're kind of a giant cruise ship, and there's always going to be places for giant cruise ships. But I think that indies are jet skis. And I love how quickly jet skis can move around. I love how they can zip in and out. And in no way am I taking away from a major label, but not every artist. In fact, most artists are not suited for a major label. Most artists will never be the next Drake or the next Ed Sheeran or the next Rihanna or the next whoever superstar. And if you sign to a major label and you don't get to that level, you don't really make money. And Circa broke down in his video exactly why that is, how it's arbitrage on the capital. And they're investing money into artists in order to make more money, and they want to keep the split. And unless it's millions of dollars that the artist is bringing in, it doesn't make financial sense to be at a major label. So we always tell artists, stay independent, do this yourself. Even if you want a record deal, we tell artists, the only way to really get a great record deal is to put out your music, build a fan base, and build enough leverage so that when a major label comes to you, the deal makes financial sense. Well, we say that all the time, but then we kind of stop there and we go about our business and we don't finish the sentence. It's like, okay, now what? Like, I hear what you're saying, but now what? What am I going to do?
Right. What do I do with that information?
Yes. The answer to that is unless you're independently wealthy, you've got to figure out a way to get the money that it's going to take. And it takes a lot of money to succeed in the music business. This is not a place that luck comes into play. Luck matters, but it plays such a small role. You've really got to learn how to do this, and you've got to have the proper funding in order to get to the next level. And you've got to keep moving forward. Even if you don't have the proper funding, you've got to keep moving forward so that you can attract an investor or even a small independent record label that sees the value in stepping in and helping you. So you've got to really be building a movement and building a fan base from day one, whether you have the money or not.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a lot of what we teach here and what we talk about on this podcast is about the strategies for, building that momentum, for building that culture, for building a tribe, for getting fans that stick and, fall in love with you.
Right.
So that you can get that momentum rolling. And in a lot of ways, you said it well, like that costs money too. There's investment required in that, and oftentimes investment that's not going to come back to you right away. I'm not here to lie about that.
No, it's the reality. And we don't tell people this. So many artists come to me after they've been working for 6 months and they say, I'm just not progressing. I'm not getting ahead. And I feel like I'm doing everything right. And when I look in at them, if they are doing everything right, it's really a time game. They just haven't put in enough time yet to get to that level. Like it can take anywhere from 11 months to 4 years to blow up. It's not a fast process.
Yeah, it's true. And the degree of which you even quantify blowing up is different from one artist to another,
Yes. I was just having a conversation with my team. Image is so important. It's such a big part of the success for an artist. And we were talking about why it's easier to blow up a street artist than it is to blow up like a more pop rapper. And what we realized in discussing this to death was that with the street artist, you already kind of know who they are. They are what they say they are. They're a street artist. But somebody who's a pop artist, they don't always know what lane they're in. They don't always know exactly who they are. Are they somebody that's more of an influencer? Are they somebody that's more athletic? Are they somebody that enjoys cooking? Do they rap fast? Do they rap slow? Are they a sexy female? Is their platform that they smoke weed or they pop pills? Like, there's so many different lanes for somebody who considers themselves a mainstream artist. Whereas with the street artist, it's kind of all one lane, and they kind of know who they are when they come into this. So the first advice that I want to give artists is know who you are. And before you get an investor, you have to already be making great music, and you have to know what your image is and who you are. Because if you go and get funding and you start playing around with all different kinds of images and all different sounds of music, you're just going to blow through that investment and never get anywhere, because you're jumping lanes, you're jumping all over the place, and you're confusing your fans. If you don't know who you are, they're not going to know who you are.
That's such a good point that I think goes unsaid 100% of the time. Is like when you have budget, it needs to be focused in the right ways. And
Correct.
You're right in saying that, like, if you don't know who you are as an artist, we talk about this, Ed and I talk about this all the time on the show, is like, know who you are and be a three-dimensional creative where you're allowing yourself to be, the artist that loves cooking and is willing to talk about
Yes.
it, where you're the artist that loves Star Wars or Pokemon or sports or rock climbing.
Yes, or skateboarding or video games or smoking weed or whatever makes you different and special. Talk about it. Be that person.
Yeah, and that's so important. You're so right. And I've never heard it said like you just said it, that you really need to lean into it and then direct the finances that you have into it so that you have a culture.
Yes, and make content. It's all content.
That's amazing. That's such great advice.
Half of my staff is content. And I'm even going to say, like, in the next 2 years, I think my whole staff will be content. I look at music and videos as content, not in a bad way, because I started out by telling you this. I came to this as a fan. I love music. I listen to music every day, almost constantly, and it's content. It's something that you put out in the world to share with other people because you've made it. You've created it. It's content.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think, and we've talked about this on the show too, is like a lot of people are averse to the word content these days because it's like they have content burnout. But maybe when you reframe the idea of content to think about it as inclusive of your art.
As art. All content is art.
Yeah, it becomes a little less annoying, a little less scary, a little bit less,
Correct.
You got to hustle and make content. And it becomes more about like, you just got to put your soul into it.
You are art. Your life is art. Your creation is art. Music is art. It's all art. You and I are art. You have cool, funky hair. I have cool glasses. Like, we all have different ways of expressing ourselves. We're art, and art is content. Content is art.
That's so true. That's well said. The way you present yourself in the world.
Life is art.
That is amazing. Now, I'm curious, in addition to, knowing yourself as an artist, what are some other things that you would recommend that, that artists need to know about going after investment, right now in the middle of February in 2023, when they're thinking about trying to raise funds? Obviously, like, we haven't even gotten to the process of doing so, but what else do you think artists need to know?
Let's talk about that. So once you know who you are and what your plan is, you need to put together a business plan, put together something on paper that you can show to people that have money, that show them what you want to do, how you're going to do it, where you're going to do it, and then how much money it'll take, and then how they're going to get their money back. So there's a lot of different things that you need to consider. And the reason I say to put it on paper is not only so that you can show it to somebody, but because it's going to force you to think about it. I remember when I put my first business plan together for my company, I had already been in business for like 2 or 3 years, and I was all over the place. And I finally put together an actual business plan that outlined what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. And when I committed it to paper, it made me see all the extra stuff that I was doing that I didn't need to be doing. Like I was doing a lot of activist work for people of color. And although that was important to me, it shouldn't have been part of Rap Coalition because it didn't fit my mission statement. It didn't fit what I was trying to accomplish for artists, you know? So I became very focused, laser focused, in fact, almost like a sniper instead of a shotgun, right? I was very, very focused. And then I knew exactly where to put my money. And for me, I invested in myself, but I knew where to put my money, how long it would take me to burn through that money, and then how I was going to make income while I was spending the money. Because if you don't look at all of that, you're going to run out of money before you accomplish your goal. And you might as well just open the window and throw the money out if you don't have a plan.
Right. Yeah. Business plan totally makes sense. Now, in terms of assets, outside of a business plan, what kind of assets do you think an artist should have before they're even considering, like, I'm trying to do an investment round, so to speak?
Yeah, they're certainly going to have the music, because if you don't have your music together, and if your music isn't great, it's going to be very difficult to attract an investor. So you need to have the music, you need to have some content, because remember, your image is really important. So you need to have the content that shows the world who you are, not necessarily having released it yet, although you're going to release it, but if you have absolutely no money to do this, you're going to want to have your music together, your content together. You want to have all of the associations that you need to sign up with. You want to have that completed. So your ASCAP or your BMI, your sound exchange, blah, blah, blah. And we're not here to talk about that. I'm sure there's other episodes that explain
the industry check boxes, though.
The checklist, exactly. Have all that completed. And then you have to really put time and focus into finding where you're going to go for funding. And because this is very much an emotional based industry, the best place you can start is with the people who know you. So your circle of friends, your family. Once you have your plan ready to go, let everybody you know tell them what you're trying to accomplish, because they may know somebody that can help you, or they may meet somebody that can help you. And as you start letting everybody know, you're also putting the energy out into the world. And I don't want to make this sound all woo-woo and new age, but that really does work. Like the energy that you put out there when you're trying to accomplish something, it really does move things along. And when you're really passionate about what you're doing, people that love you are going to be excited to try to help you. So they're going to be like, okay, who do I know that has money? Who do I know that said they wanted to start a record label or be in the music industry? And what's happening is, you're like a wheel, and there's all these spokes that are coming off of you, and each of those spokes connects to another wheel, and then there's spokes coming off of that wheel. So you may only have a circle of 20 or 30 people that really are in your circle that matter to you, but each one of those people have 20 to 30 people. And then each one of those people have 20 to 30 people. So all of a sudden, you've got all of these people within your network that you didn't even know that you had, looking for somebody that could help you. And at some point, your energy and your effort is going to pay off. So I always tell artists, and there's no one answer. I can't tell you step 1, step 2, step 3. It doesn't work that way. I've got 7 clients right now, and each one of them, their money came to them in a different way. They each have a different type of deal. They each have a different type of investor. One has a 50-50 partner. The other one has a person that lent them money that they're going to pay back at 1.25%. So they're making a 25% return on them in the next 5 years. Everybody has a different situation. So I can't say go do this or go do that, but I can give you the benefit of learning from their experiences One of my clients started going to the Chamber of Commerce meetings in his city. It's a male rapper, and he just started attending meetings and he started meeting people, and he didn't necessarily go on some begging for money type of platform. He went and he started meeting other entrepreneurs and other people that own businesses in his city. And he started doing like co-sponsorship deals. Like he did a deal with a company that sells rims and car stereos. And he would go to the shop once a month and do like a little performance in the shop, and the shop would promote it and he would promote it, and it would bring like 30 new people in. Not a lot, just like 30 new people in. And of those 30 people, a small percentage would buy from the stereo shop, and it became like a really good relationship. And as he kept going to the Chamber of Commerce meetings, the guy that owned the auto sound shop was telling other people in the meetings, yeah, like he's really helped my business. So what that did was it kind of put a spotlight on that artist. And then somebody that owns, I think it was a HVAC company, like a heating and air conditioning company. The guy said, look, I'm a fan of music. I played your music for my kids. My kids say you're really good. What does it take to fund this? Because I'm not making a lot of money in the stock market. I'd like to make more money with my savings. And if you can give me reason why we should partner, I'd like to be in the music industry. And that just came from not him asking for money, but him offering a service to help somebody that worked and benefited, and then that person became his best spokesperson. That's how he found his investor. Another artist found his investor sitting at a bar in a strip club. And this is the most amazing story to me, because he was going to perform that night and it wasn't advertised. He wanted to just get up and test out some new music. So he's at the strip club waiting for it to fill up. He's sitting next to some guy and they're getting drunk together. They're talking about life, and they're talking about, they both had new babies. They were talking about their kids, and they were talking about life in general. And this guy was a real estate investor. He made his money flipping houses. This is a couple years ago. He made money flipping houses. And the artist was like, oh, well, I'm interested in that. I need to make money to fund my career. Do you think that would work for me? And they just kind of bonded. And then all of a sudden, the owner of the club came over and said, hey, if you want to perform, get up on stage. And he hopped up on stage, grabbed a mic, and started to rap. And the real estate investor's like, what? I didn't know he was a rapper. And he enjoyed the show. And then he got back down after he performed. He was just trying to test out some music. He sat back down. They finished having their conversation. They kept drinking beer together. And at the end of the night, the real estate guy said, hey, give me your number. And the artist gave him his number. And he thought to himself, oh, he'll never call me. And like a week later, his phone rang and it was the real estate guy. And he said, yo, can we sit back down? And they had a couple more meetings. It's not like it happened in 15 minutes. It's not a fast process, but he ended up investing over $1 million into the rapper, and the rapper's career has taken off. So they're both multimillionaires now.
Those are amazing stories. And I think that I'm kind of floored by them, to be honest with you, because they're your true small business stories.
Yes.
They're truly people building small businesses.
Yes. Truly entrepreneur stories. Yes.
Doing things that small business owners, entrepreneurs do. Going to chambers of commerces and meeting people out and about in their town. I just think that that's stunning.
It works. I can give you so many. I mean, there's no one story that's repeated, right? They're all different, but they all involve people getting to know you, trusting you as a person, liking your music, seeing the little movement that you have and saying, I want to be in business with this person. It's not like you can just go to a real estate convention and pitch everybody there on why they should be in the music business, right? If somebody doesn't have...
Tough sell.
It's a very tough sell. If somebody doesn't already have an interest in music you're never going to get them to part with their money because it's a very high risk industry, like opening a restaurant. But somebody that loves food is going to invest because they see the value in a restaurant. So it's the same with an artist. As long as you've got a little bit of movement, so you're doing the best you can with what you have, and somebody sees, wow, he's really making something happen for himself or herself with the little resources. Imagine if I put my money behind him, what we could accomplish. And that's how you see guys like Russ and Chance the Rapper and La Russell and so many independent artists, Little Donald, that are doing it really big. And then once you've got a catalog and you've got music in the marketplace, that catalog is going to be generating income. And if you're in a situation where you need to get money, you can get advances on your catalog. And I'm not recommending this. This is not my first choice of how you get money because it's almost like a payday loan, right? The risk is really high. But if you're an artist that's already selling music, you're already making an income of $15,000 or $20,000 a month on your music, but you need a lump of money and you don't want to wait the year or so that it's going to take for all of that money to compound, you can go to a company like a Beat Bread, for example, and get an advance on the music that's already in the marketplace. Again, I'm not saying this should be your first choice, but you should look at all of your choices, figure out the one that makes the most sense for you and the one with the money that has the lowest cost. You always want to look at what is it going to cost me to do this? If I go and take out a bank loan, that might be a 7% interest rate because I've got great credit, right? But if I go over here and I get this person to invest in me, they might want 25%, but it's over a 4-year period. So now that becomes 6.25% a year. So that's now a better cost of money than me taking out a bank loan. And with the bank loan, if I can't pay it back for some reason, I have to bankrupt myself. It's gonna hurt my credit. Whereas if I have an investor that's absorbing some of that risk, they're taking the risk with me. If I lose that money, I don't have to bankrupt myself. I don't necessarily lose in that equation, in that situation.
Right. You mentioned one artist that you knew that had an investor where there was a loan situation at one point. You said 1.25%. That's unheard of. Can't get that at a bank or at a record label. That's for sure.
No. I'm sorry. He wanted 1.25 return. So he wanted a 25% return on that money, but it was over a 4-year period.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yep.
So it was that 25% divided by 4 became 6.25% per year.
Got
per
it.
annum. It was the cost of the money. That's what you compare. You compare the terms, the situation. Do I like this person that I'm about to partner with? Is this somebody I can trust? And ideally, you want somebody that's got some experience already in the music industry. If you don't, because you want somebody that can get you to the next level.
You made an interesting point about getting advances on your royalties.
I don't love it.
Yeah, it's something to look at, but it's a lot of the deals out there. And I've talked to plenty of artists where not the most favorable terms.
Correct. And you can't do it like all of these companies are not created equal. Some of them really are predatory. They're payday loan companies, and I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah.
And I've seen artists lose their ownership of their masters and their publishing because they couldn't pay the money back.
The comparison is so accurate, and they literally are payday loan companies. And a lot of artists may not even know what a payday loan company that is on the corner block.
Yes.
They don't know what that is, so not necessarily going to know to do the due diligence for these royalty advancing companies.
Yeah, it's important to do the research on anything. I sort of liken this to marriage. You're not just going to go to the club, see somebody that you're attracted to, and marry them that night. And starting a business is the same. You've got to really date somebody and go through the process and get to know them before you just jump in bed with them. Every partnership that I've ever had has gone wrong. And I'm a really successful person. I'm great at relationships. I'm great at communicating, but partnerships just haven't been great for me. And when I looked at all of the partnerships I've done over the years, I've always partnered with people that have less to bring to the table than me. So I call it partnering down. And I don't think that's smart. I think you need to partner up. I think you need to partner with people that really bring a lot to the table and can really benefit you if you're going to do a true partnership with that person.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Like they have to bring something, whether it's capital or whether it's experience or connections.
Knowledge or relationships or experience, something.
Yeah, a book of business.
Hopefully all of that.
I'm just stunned and thrilled by the stories that you shared about those artists who truly were just going out there and being business owners and doing the things that, if you were starting a restaurant or you were starting a real estate company, these are the things that you would be expected to do. And it's almost like artists are small businesses, and that's what we've been saying.
They are. They're startups. I have a client that lives, I don't want to embarrass anybody, that lives in a small town in Florida. And there happened to be an NFL player from that town. He didn't know him, but they were from the same town. They're maybe 4 years apart. They didn't go to the same school. He didn't know him, but he happened to hear an interview that this guy did where he talked about music, and he said, when his career is over, he'd like to start a record label. So this artist went out of his way to find somebody that knew him, had that person make an introduction, and now they came together and they're starting a label together.
Wow.
And he's still playing in the NFL. Like his career's not done yet. It just sped up his dream a little bit because he found the right artist.
That's so cool.
And they're doing really well together. Like, it's just like, yes, now they're like best friends. And
that's such a cool story.
I have a million of those stories. So for artists to sit back and say, I can't do it, I don't know where to find an investor, I'm sorry, I'm not buying that. It's easier to find an investor than it is to find a record deal.
Oh my gosh, that's the mic drop. That's the mic drop.
Amazingly easier.
Wow. That is it. That is it.
There's more people out here with money than there are record labels. I've helped more artists become millionaires independently than I've done record deals. I've probably done 15 to 20 deals in my career. And when you Google me, you'll see the deals that I've done. They're kind of impressive. I've been very, very, very fortunate. Very fortunate. And I'm more proud of the artists that have become millionaires independently than I am the ones that have signed to major labels. Because when you sign to a major label, you have to wait for them. You move at their speed.
Yep. And it's very slow.
You don't have control. If they don't like a song and they tell you we don't feel it's it, they'll just not put it out. Whereas if you're independent, you have the ability to put songs out and get feedback. You kind of know what's working and what's not. And of course, in our office, we test everything. We test songs, 5 songs at a time. We run Instagram ads, Facebook ads, sometimes Google ads. We test the songs. So I know exactly where I'm going to spend the money after I've tested those songs. I know exactly of those 5 songs, 1 or 2 have stood out. I'm going to put 60% of the budget on the ones that stood out and 40% on the remaining 3 or 4 that didn't do as well.
Right, right.
And I'm looking at all the data, and thank God for data. Like, when I started in this industry, we didn't have data, or data, however you want to say it. We didn't have research. It was gut. We had to trust our gut. We'd put a song out, we'd force it down people's throats, and if it didn't work, oh, well, we lost, $1 million or $2 million, whatever. I don't have that luxury today. My clients only have $150,000 to spend. So I have to get them to a point where there's money coming back into the company before they spend that whole 150. And that's not easy, but it's possible. I do it all day.
That's something I wanted to ask you about. And I'm sure anyone that listens to what we've been talking about just now is probably wondering, well, like when you're working with an investor, what are they looking for when it comes to an ROI? How soon? What kind of ROI? Are they looking at long-term appreciation versus short-term profits?
Each person is different. So there are some people that just want a better return than the stock market. They might be making an 8% return. So anything above 10% is gravy to them. It's a better place to put their money. Some really want to be in the music business and they want to be a 50-50 partner for the rest of your life, if that's what you want to do. Some are looking to put up money for the first release, get a good return, and then go start their own company because maybe they don't want to work with a rapper or a singer. Maybe they want to work with reggae or country music or whatever. But everybody has different needs and wants. So you have to find out what your investor's looking for and then set up a win-win situation. And if you don't know how to structure that, an entertainment attorney experienced in corporate partnerships will be able to help you do that. But they're looking to make money. Don't get it twisted. They're not investing in you just because they love you or they love the music. They want to make their money back. It's not fast. It can take anywhere from, for my clients, and again, I've got 30 years of experience. So don't go by me, go by my example, if that helps. So what I'm saying is for me, it takes anywhere from 11 to 24 months for the artist to start making money. It's very rare that it takes longer than that. Trouble took a little bit longer. Trouble took 3.5 years. We ended up investing $322,000 into his career over that period of time. But of that 322, 155,000 of it was the investor's money. The rest of the money was the money that came back in from the publishing and the merch and the sales. And the investor had part of Trouble show money. I think he had 10%. I can't remember. It was so long ago, but he had a small part of the money and he was putting his money back into the company. Trouble was not. Trouble was keeping his portion, but the investor was recycling. And we got it to the point where Trouble was making $100,000 a month. And then after he did that for almost a year, Interscope came knocking and said, okay, we want to sign you. And his deal was something like $8 million for a 3-year deal. Like, it was an incredibly amazing deal. But it was because he was already producing so much catalog and the fans were reacting so strongly to the music he was making, and the show money was coming in and the merch money was coming in, the publishing money was coming in. So everything was firing on all cylinders. And as a small business, it made sense for Interscope to say, you know what, we want to partner with you. And it made sense. And he did the deal.
The leverage was there.
It was there. It was there, and it was on fleek. It was just strong.
I think that's great to hear. And, great to get a sense of just how varying it can be. What type of investor you have, what they're looking for in terms of a return on their capital, how soon,
exactly,
what that looks like, and how that can be varied. I think it's helpful to know that it's not just one, it's not just one way.
It's not. It's many ways. And I've been doing what I do since 1998. Like, this is really all I do, is help artists put their music into the marketplace, artists that have investors. So the fact that I've been doing this for so long and making great money doing this, and the artists all able to make money and feed their families and have success. Like, some of them are making $100,000 a year and they're happy. That's all they want. They're not trying to sign to a major label. They just want to live their dream and take care of their family. And then other artists like Little Donald are making millions of dollars, and that's their dream. That's their goal. It wouldn't surprise me if tomorrow Donald signed to a major label only because he's at a point where he could do a joint venture, like a 60-40 deal where he makes 60% of the money and they make 40, but they give him a multi-million-dollar advance. Like, he's just at that point now. Ditto LaRussell. LaRussell makes great money doing what he's doing. He's making like $100,000 a month. So it wouldn't surprise me if a major label came along. But that's not everybody's goal. Some people just want to make a living and support their family and put out music and enjoy themselves.
Right.
Russ is a great example. Again, Chance the Rapper is a great example. There's a lot of artists out here that are just really happy doing it independently.
It's so cool. The stories that you shared are just, I think, amazing and really good examples of, it's a different kind of work that I think artists aren't used to thinking about or doing.
It is work, Jack. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's like you're doing 3 jobs. You're making music, you're marketing the music, and then your social media is an entire job by itself. Content is a full-time job. So you've really got 3 full-time jobs, but you love this. Like, this is why you're doing it, because you love making music and you love sharing it with people. So is it really work? You're not digging ditches for 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. You're doing what you love.
Yeah, it's that old saying, like, find something you love and you'll never work a day in your life.
That's the story of my life.
Yeah, how much you agree with that sentiment, I think, is up to the beholder,
Yes. And some of us are willing to do the work and some are not. If you're an artist and you just really don't want to do the work, find somebody on your team who does. Like, Jay-Z had Dame Dash. It's not bad to have somebody to help you do the work or to be your spokesperson. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Find somebody that's strong where you're weak. If you're the best at what you do in the room, you're in the wrong room. I'm never the most powerful person in the room. I'm never the smartest person in the room. I'm never the most successful person in the room. I'm never the hardest working person in the room. I surround myself with people that are better than me, that I can learn from, and that force me to step my shit up a notch and call me out when I'm not doing my best. And if you're not doing that, then you're not growing, you're not succeeding. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't have balance. I have balance in my life. Like, I take vacations, I have friends, I go out to dinner with friends. I have a life, a little bit of one, but I have a life and I'm happy. I'm a workaholic, but I'm happy. And I think that's what it's about. It's, for me, success is being happy. It's freedom. I don't have to worry about, can I pay my mortgage next month? And it took me decades to get here. I did not get money fast. It took me a really long time because I did what's right and I became valuable to other people. I became important to other people. I helped people live their dreams and make money. So my mission was always to be of service. And now I get paid for that because I'm really good at what I do. And I don't mean that to sound arrogant. I know my value. I know what I bring. My clients are millionaires. I get it. I help them get there, And when you get to a point where you can do that for yourself, it's just the most amazing thing.
Yeah, that's amazing. Oh man, the stories were so great. I'm curious, like, your opinion on something. This type of investment and this type of fundraising and specifically the movement of capital in the music industry. I know you said that, the major labels will always have their place and they're the cruise ship, but do you see these kinds of business partnerships and these kind of investment, we'll call it fundraising, I guess, financing for artists, do you see this to be the future movement of how things are going to go?
No, I think the labels are here and now, but I think they're becoming content companies. Here's that content word again. I think they're becoming banks or content companies. And I think that they'll do partnerships with music and artists because it's what helps sell and build brands in the world. And I think that they're going to become more content and branding companies and banks than record labels. And at some point, they're going to have to do fair deals because we could just go down the street to Chase.
I was going to say, with that in mind, does all of these other alternative funding vehicles, does that become the future? Is that a better bank?
Yes. I think they're first to market. I said that on a call. I was on a call yesterday with Beat Bread, and I said that to them. I said, you're disrupting the music industry because they're taking risk along with the artist. And that's really all artists need is the money, the know-how, and great music and an image. And work ethic. You got to work.
It's interesting how we talked about record labels and arbitrage, where labels are in such a place now that they are hedging so much risk that they're really not taking a bet on the artists anymore.
They're not. They have never, to be honest with you. 30 years in,
Yep.
They don't take a risk. There was always 30 small artists that were paying for the one big win. And then there was the one superstar that was running the building, paying all the budgets for everybody. But we all know that they don't ever take a loss. Whatever they spend, they get that whole amount back out of the artist's share before the artist even gets a dime. And if you guys don't understand this, watch Circa's video. Could you put a link maybe under?
We'll link to it in the show notes for sure.
Please,
yeah,
absolutely. Because that explains it better than I ever could.
Oh, Circa's gonna throw up when he hears that.
I sent his video to everybody I know last night. Your hits today had to be through the roof because I made my whole inner circle watch that. And I haven't even posted it yet on my socials. I'm about to.
Oh, man.
But what he said was so important because he broke it down so succinctly, and he did it with catchy graphics, and it was fun to watch. I wish I could make videos the way you guys do because they're fun. They're like, you watch it and then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, I'm done. Like, I don't watch any video all the way through because my attention span is like this. It's like squirrel.
Mine too.
Oh, shiny object. Like I can't focus.
I'm a 1.75 speed guy.
Me too. Sometimes two, because I'm a New Yorker. Sometimes two. Got to watch things on double time. But exactly. But with him, it's like the video's over and I'm like, oh shit. I never knew what the end of a video looked like because I never get to the end. His videos I get through because they're art. They're just content. They're great. So all that to say, watch this video and understand how the money works at a major label because they're never taking a short. They're never taking a loss. And when you're so accustomed to making such high margins with such low risk, it's very hard to reduce the deals that you're doing. And that's why they can't exist, because they won't change the formula. They won't change the fact that they're making the most money in the equation. They won't do fair and equitable deals unless the artist is already winning. And if the artist is already winning, they don't need the label. And as soon as that mentality changes, and it's changing very quickly now amongst artists, I work with Lil Russell, and he's been I've been talking to labels with him since June. This is February, and he has not signed a deal. He's pretty much talked to everybody out there. So if you don't need a major label, the major labels are going to have to change the business model. And until they do that, they'll get less and less share of the pie. And indies will keep growing and growing. And the people that came to market first to do good business will always win.
It's an exciting time to be an indie for sure.
Oh my God, yes.
Do you have any final kind of wisdom to pass along or advice to pass along for an artist who thinks maybe they're in a place where, they could start to seek out an investor? What could you tell them? The
one thing that I didn't emphasize that I really need to, and we talked about having great music and we talked about working hard, but what I didn't talk about was learning how the music business operates, like how to market and promote your music, what works and what doesn't, the importance of content, what kind of content works, what kind of content doesn't work. The true secret to being successful in the music industry is to do more of what works and less of what doesn't. Do more of what works and less of what doesn't. You've got to learn to take the risk, be willing to fail, just fail faster. Fail faster. Make the mistakes as early as possible so that you can figure out what's going to work. Look at the careers and trajectories of artists that are at your level and a little bit above you. Don't look to see what Drake is doing. Drake is 10 or 15 years in. Don't look at what he's doing. It doesn't matter what he's doing. Follow the people that are in your lane that are a little bit ahead of you. Look at what they're doing. Get to know them, talk to them, find out what works and what doesn't. I've got a ton of free information. Indiepreneur has a ton of information. There's a ton of people out here that are giving out information. You may have to pay for it, but you're getting information. Learn how to do this properly. It is not what it looks like from the outside looking in. It's not what you think it is.
I love that. I think that's great advice. I always tell people, if you're going to launch a record, don't do it like Beyonce did it last week. Don't do it like Taylor Swift did it last year. Tune all of that out. It doesn't help you.
You can't. They're superstars. It doesn't work. You can't just throw it out and sit back and say, okay, I'm waiting. Come on, fans, wake me when I'm famous. It does not work that way. You've actually got to work and build your fan base one by one. And it feels really slow at first. My biggest complaint from my clients is it's not happening fast enough. And I sit them down before we even start and I tell them, this is a slow burn. It's a slow flip. We're going to do the same thing over and over and over for a year to 2 years. And they all say, Wendy, I understand. I'm not in a hurry. 6 months in, man, this isn't working. I'm so upset. Remember, we talked about this. It's going to take a while. It's the consistency and the time. And you can't buy that. You can't cheat that. You can't hack that. You can't just go and buy fans and buy followers. It'll fuck up all your algorithms. All you can do is put in the work and just keep working and keep working and keep working. And enough people will see you repetitively to be like, wait, who's that? What's he doing? Man, I see this kid everywhere. Let me check him out. Oh, her stuff's good or his stuff's good. Oh, hey, Bobby, you're my best friend. And check this out. Isn't this great? That's what it's about.
I love that. That's so good.
This is $1 million episode. We've talked about some great shit.
This has been one of my favorite episodes that I think we've ever done. This is so much fun. Thank you so much.
I love this too, because we're really helping people.
Yeah. Thank you so much for doing this, Wendy. Where can people keep up with you and what you've got going on?
They can go to wendyday.com. That's sort of where everything about me is housed. But if you're trying to engage with me and talk to me, Instagram is probably the best place. I'm at Rap Coalition. That's probably, and it's funny that I say that because there's something wrong with my account. I don't get DMs. So you can't even DM me. But I have a link tree on there.
Something wrong. Sounds great.
It's heaven.
Sounds like a great problem to have.
It's heaven. Because the really smart boos know to go to the link tree. At the very bottom is my email address, and you can get right to me.
I'll link to your Instagram in the show notes, link to your website in the show notes.
Thank you, love.
Wendy, this was amazing. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you. Thank you for doing this. I know that it's so valuable, and I love what you guys do. I'm so in love with Indiepreneur and you and Circa. You're just really good people. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being such a great person and for taking the time to share with us and share with our listeners. This was so much fun.
Happy to do it. Thank my mom. She made me who I am.
Well, thank you, Wendy's mom. Thank you, Wendy. I hope you guys dug this episode. We'll catch you guys next time on Creative Juice. Go get it, Indies. Peace.
Can y'all really feel us? East Coast, feel us. West Coast, feel me. Say what?